Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Minerva Genesis deck profile for post-Minerva Rising. This is the first of the 3 encounter decks that I'll be deck profiling on the channel. Minerva focuses on a restand playstyle, just like her original version did, in Stride or Limit Break format, depending on which Minerva you remember. But Omniscience Regalia Minerva is your main go-to, grade 3 in the deck, with that restanding pressure and the soul build-up, just like the Genesis decks were meant to do. It's a really awesome deck with so many older cards from the Limit Break series added into the deck. So if you're a fan of Genesis or just Minerva in general, this is definitely one of the decks to look into building from the latest Cardfight Vanguard booster set. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is Vivid Rabbit. The standard when wrote upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Witch of Frogs Melissa. When this unit is wrote upon by a unit with only Genesis for its clan, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from among them, put it into your soul, and shuffle your deck. So this just gives you options for it to be put into your soul and set up when wrote upon. So setting up more and more cards for you to use for your soul, and then for the soul blasting power. Our grade 2 is Witch of Ravens, Chamomile, just like Melissa, Chamomile, and Melissa will be used in additional numbers, which will go over the rear guard effects. But when this card is wrote upon by a unit with Genesis for its only clan, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and choose up to 2 cards from among them, put them into your soul and shuffle your deck. So more soul build up, you can avoid some of the triggers with this card when wrote upon by your main go-to grade 3, which is Omniscience Regalia Minerva. Along with the copy we are running in the ride deck, we're running 3 additional copies as well. For Minerva, during your turn, if your soul has a grade 3 with Regalia and its card name, all your front row gets plus 5,000. And on Vanguard, once per turn, you can soul blast 1, look at the top card of your deck, put it on the top of your deck or into your soul. So more soul build up. And once per turn at the end of battle, this unit attack, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counter blast 1, soul blast 3, and discard a card with Genesis for its clan from hand, and stand this unit, and it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So it has the soul blast power that the original Minerva was meant to do. All you need to do is have another Regalia in your soul to be able to do so. So whether you Persona Ride with Minerva, you'll have that additional plus 5,000 power, and then also being able to have your opponent at grade 3. So it definitely does make for a pretty good going second deck, as long as you have that Regalia build-up for the soul charge power, or just being able to set it up with some of your ride deck from before, like Chamomile can definitely help when you check the top cards of your deck to set up your soul. For the other grade 3 that we run in the deck, I also run 4 copies of Regalia of Wisdom, Angelica. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If you have a Vanguard with Minerva and its card name, you can Soul Blast 1, choose up to 1 of your Vanguards, and it gets plus 5,000 to end of turn. Then put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1. So this is another way to get a Regalia unit into your soul to have the additional plus 5,000 for Minerva. Just being able to build up that soul with Angelica and also give you a countercharge option, because you will counterblast a lot with a good number of cards in the deck, whether it be Chamomile, Minerva, or even some of your other go-to cards that we run in the deck. You at least have this setup power thanks to Angelica being another countercharge option. It's the only other grade 3 we run in the deck aside from Minerva. For the other grade 2s, I run 3 additional copies of Witch of Ravens Chamomile. For its options, when it's part into your soul from your drop zone, or into your drop zone from your soul, your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Minerva and its card name, counter blast 1 and call this card to rear guard, giving you a grade 2 10k on the rear, just as an easy setup for the soul blast. It's kind of like what the original Witch of Ravens Chamomile did with its soul blast power, having the same options, just like your Witch of Frogs Melissa, just having a soul charge option with Melissa instead, but still Chamomile being able to be called to rear guard gives you an added option for that setup, and you can have the same play, since you already have one in your ride deck, for you to be able to set up from your soul as well. For some of the other grade 2s I run in the deck, I also run 3 copies of Witch of Moonrabbit Rubinia. When it's placed on rearguard, you counterblast 1, choose a card from your hand, put it into your soul, and draw a card. So it's just another quick way to help with the soul charge power, and also just being able to draw into some more particular better cards for you to use, whether it be a Persona Ride card or one of the orders that we also run in the deck. And for the last of the grade 2s, 2 copies of Knight of Piercing Cadwalla. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If you have 4 more units, Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and choose up to 1 grade 2 or greater unit from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. If you do not reveal a card, you draw a card. So at least you have the option to reveal a pretty useful card that you can use for the following turn from your hand, just by retiring your Cadwalla, which can also avoid your opponent being able to get around this card. If you want to mix and match some of your numbers, you can always decrease the number of Rubinia you have in the deck and increase the number of Cadwalla that you run. Moving on to the grade 1s, I still run 3 additional copies of Witch of Frogs Melissa. When this unit is put from your soul into the drop zone, if you have a Vanguard with Minerva in its card name, call this card to a back row rear guard. If you called it, you may soul charge 1. So it calls out just like your Witch of Chamomile, and being able to also soul charge 1 makes up for the soul blast that you used with Melissa to begin with. So along with the ride deck version, having additional copies of this card in your deck just adds for more consistency for calling out a unit onto the rear guard and giving you an additional soul charge. And also running 4 copies of Apple Witch Cider. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Minerva and its card name, you may return this unit to your hand. And when this unit is put on the guard circle, if your soul has a grade 3 with Regalia and its card name, this unit gets +5 shield to end of battle. So it makes for a good bounce to your hand, being able to bounce it and then have an additional 10k guard, and also be able just to have a booster provided at the end of the battle boosted if you just have a Vanguard with Minerva, making it so it's a unit that you can use for the offense if you only have so many few cards on your field for you to use, and then add back to your hand to go for more of a defensive play style. And I also run 4 copies of Aegis Mare Dragon. If you have the Elementaria Sanctitude, you can always take out 1 copy of this card for that Blitz order to run additionally in the deck. But it's just your go-to Sentinel being able to have the choice to save a card in your hand. If you only have 1 or less card in your hand, saving you a Persona Ride or an additional Sentinel with this card to guard against your opponent with. Moving on now to the orders, I run 3 copies of Wisdom of Beginning that cleared the world. You play it with a counterblast of 1, draw 2 cards, choose 2 cards from your hand, call them to rear if the grade of each of them is less than or equal to your Vanguard, and discard them if not. So this is just a good card that's used earlier on or later, depending on the risk you want to take, because you do run some grade 3s with this order being able to just fill up your field even more. And one of the best plays, if you're at grade 3 with Minerva, being able to reveal your Angelica off of this card and have a unit that can make up the counterblast you use with this order, and also build up your soul with the Angelica you called out. And then the last of the orders that I run is just the 1 Gradius Gradel. This is, once again, like I said, an awesome card to run regardless of the deck. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Persona Ride and you do not, this turn, use its skill, you activate Persona Ride. So as long as you didn't ride this turn with your Minerva, it just acts as an additional Persona Ride card that you can use. You may only have 1 in a deck, that's why we're also just running the 1 copy to begin with. And then for the trigger lineup, I run 4 copies of White Fang Witch Disma and 3 copies of Daring Knight Sail. If you have the trigger with the additional soul charge power, you can just replace 4 copies of your critical for that trigger of choice. Our next trigger lineup is also just the draw trigger, because a lot of our cards do get put into the soul, so it really make much use to run a front trigger. So 4 copies of Protection Magic for Roby for the additional shield that this card can provide, along with the shield power it also has. And also for the heals, 2 copies of Circulating Sorceress, 1 copy of Tear Sorceress, and 1 Invigorate Sage for the combo being able to have these heals when needed for the additional guard. And our over trigger is Light Dragon Deity Amartanoa for the rear guard power, especially with Angelica, to be able to then swing for the additional twin drive that your grade 3s can get. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, I'll be doing more of the encounter deck along with some of the other glitter decks from the Minerva Rising booster set. So look forward to it. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.